Welcome to CSGuitars, the science of loud. Sometimes a product comes along that completely changes how you get your sound. For me, one of those products was the Bass Butler from Orange, a twin preamp which makes getting raunchy rock bass tones easy. Prior to this, I really struggled to get a solid bass sound, but this provided me with a completely new approach to recording bass in a convenient desktop box. Clearly, I wasn't the only one impressed with this preamp unit, as the commercial success of the Bass Butler has prompted Orange to create a guitar version of this unit with the same footprint and format. The Guitar Butler is a twin-channel guitar preamp basing itself on the sound of classic rock amps from the 70s, utilising JFET circuit design to closely retain the response of those classic valve amplifiers and incorporating a balanced XLR line out with cabinet simulation, ideal for directly feeding the sound desk at a live show. But will this be a loyal member of your guitar lineup for years to come? Let's see what the Guitar Butler can serve up. There's not much to differentiate the two Butlers in terms of graphic design, besides the guitar version featuring a less appealing font, but it's the implementation of the features that really matters here. While the Bass Butler had two preamp channels which ran in parallel and could be blended together in post for the perfect bi-amped sound, the Guitar Butler features more conventional clean or distorted channels selectable via the foot switch. The Distortion channel is a single-ended JFET design styled after classic 70s rock amplifiers, the topology allowing the Butler to mimic triode response, and it's the behaviour of the channel that really sells that. Much like an old Plexi or similar amplifier, the Butler has a bright, crisp response at lower gain settings, but dialling in more saturation gradually darkens and thickens the sound. This muddier response at higher gain settings is the reason that treble boosters and bright overdrive pedals were so commonly paired with those classic rock amplifiers, and that pairing is still desirable here for articulate high gain. Now, if you're expecting a tight, modern, high-gain metal preamp, then look elsewhere. That's not what the Butler is designed to do. With an overdrive out front, you can push this into the realms of 80s British heavy metal, but that's about as far as it'll go. Another way in which this sells its 70s influence is in the dual switchable volume controls, allowing you to pump up the volume for that all-important solo and then dropping back down to a more respectable rhythm level. The upper range of the volume control behaves like a valve-rectified amplifier. It stops getting louder after a while and responds with a spongy compression that evokes the feeling of tube rectifier sag. A 3-band EQ and post-volume presence control, denoted by this threatening-looking fist, complete the control layout for the Distortion channel, offering considerable adjustability for any guitar you plan to use. Switching into the clean channel, we once again have a 3-band tone stack and its own gain control. This vintage voice channel is a blank canvas for any pedals you may choose to use with this. This is able to represent drive pedals without too much coloration from the preamp itself, and the inbuilt effects loop allows us to add modulation and time bass effects prior to the balanced out. You'll be hearing some Dimension C and carbon copy being used in the loop in the following examples. The amp output allows the Butler to be connected to an amplifier, although it might make most sense to connect it to the return of a power amp, as I'm doing with the tube amp expander. This can be done to monitor the sound in room while simultaneously sending the balanced out to interface or mixing desk. All of the sounds you've been hearing have been from the balanced output with the inbuilt cab sim directly into my interface. Now, in the past, I've given Orange a hard time for their analog cabinet simulations in their other products. I've never been very impressed with them, so I don't know if they've listened and done something different for this, or if what they were doing before just works far better in this context, because the cab sim in this sounds really good. With a touch of EQ from the desk, this would be a completely competent live sound, and you could throw this onto a recording and no one would bat an eye. It's excellent for what it needs to do. Now, for my own recording purposes, I'd still prefer to use the amp output and apply my own IRs in post to give me the ultimate flexibility in sound, but I still wouldn't have any problem using the inbuilt cabinet simulation if I had to. And one final note, the Guitar Butler is powered from 18 volts centre positive, just like the bass Butler. A power supply is included with the device, but be aware that you can't power this from your standard 9 volt centre negative supply. And whatever you do, don't plug any of your other pedals into the Guitar Butler's power supply, or you'll suddenly find you have fewer pedals than you did before. Orange have once again delivered a high quality product with the Guitar Butler. This preamp format is fantastic for getting a reduced size rig. If you're wanting to leave your amp at home and deliver your sound direct, but don't want to go down the line of digital modelers, then this is an analog solution that responds and operates in ways that you'll be familiar with from your valve amplifiers. With the functionality to connect to other effects, the classic 2-channel amplifier tones which form the foundation for a huge swathe of sounds, and the capability for direct out, this becomes as useful a live or recording tool as its bass sibling. If you want to find out more about this unit, then links will be in the description below. And don't forget to click all the buttons you're supposed to make this video viable to the ever-changing whims of the YouTube algorithm. That's all for now. Keep it loud and stay safe. It was you that set the spirit free.